And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the season finale to one of the greatest seasons in the whole show. The question everyone had was, how would the season wrap up? I just stared at the screen for a bit after it ended, which might make you wonder if it didn't slap. And to that, all I have to say is,
no, it did.
This is a breakdown and review of the season 9 finale of Rick and Morty, Field of Dreams. The episode begins by showcasing how, when members of the family all die in a given reality, that place becomes an estate sale for alternative Ricks and Mortys to pretty much claim anything. Extremely fucked up concept, of course I was on board, but that reminds me, why haven't we seen something like this before? You know, back in season 6 when our family showed up in the Parmesian dimension and took the place of their dead selves? That means that this real estate Rick must be closely monitoring universes and waits the correct amount of time. Once he realizes no other alternate family is showing up to claim the universe, then he comes in. I know it's a kind of stupid thing to fixate on, but it's what I thought of instantly. I have to also mention this line.
You want to be buried with your porn magazines?
Magazines? Oh, what's a magazines, old man?
Fuck you, Morty. Go practice your pronouns.
I love that Morty tries to pull the whole
"we shouldn't take things for granted"
thing on Rick again, only for it to completely backfire because he's a straight dumbass. A common theme throughout this episode. Our Rick gets fixated on some vehicle rotating thing, which is so stupid because you'd think that would be one of Rick's easier inventions. Morty then comes across this nonchalant Morty, who tells him that he likes to funeral hop his own funeral across realities. Why? Because that way he gets to hear Beth, Jerry, or even Summer say all the nice things they really feel about him. This is actually pretty thought-provoking. It makes you think how many times you forget or don't feel the need to say simple things like I love you to the people we love. You know, before it's too late and they can't even hear you. That's when Funeral Hop Morty finds a portal junior for our Morty at the estate sale. And anyone could see that this is going to be another episode where Morty triggers an insane level of fuckery all because of his own selfishness and stupidity. See, if I said that line to you devoid of any context, you might say,
do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
Oh, by the way, leave a like if you're enjoying the video so far and subscribe while you're down there. Apparently 90% of you who watch these breakdowns are not subscribed. Thank you to all of you who tuned in every week as episodes came out for this season. It's been a lot of fun. I usually make big character analysis videos, and next month I'll be doing one on Rick Sanchez himself. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Anyway, while the animators flex through the rotating machine, Morty asks Rick about the idea of attending your own funeral. Of course, he tells him there's other ways to feel that sort of validation, and then he says,
do whatever you want. It's your funeral.
Ironic though, because by the end, it actually won't be. So he starts funeral hopping, visiting several realities where seeing his family cry over his death is extremely uplifting. While I have been shitting on Morty a lot already, it's actually kind of sad when you think about the way Beth or Summer treat him. Jerry's a bit aloof, and Rick, well, shows his love through other means, but rarely do Beth or Summer ever actually show they love him. So it makes sense that he would funeral hop. That is until he lands in a dimension where his dimensional counterpart, Mort, essentially one of the more perfect versions of himself, is dead. As this family weeps for him, their dog ends up sniffing and finding our Morty, and he tells him the whole deal. Shockingly, this universe's Summer, Beth, and Jerry are extremely loving to him, and then it's revealed why. See, in this reality, Rick was a drunk. Wait, sorry, he's a drunk and the family kicked him out. As a result, this family seems to actually be happy. I mean, just look at how different their clothes are. That night, Morty and the family actually fall asleep while watching Field of Dreams, a cute nod to the episode's name. Morty then wakes up, realizes he needs to go back, and Jerry gives him his house keys in case he ever wants to come back. Such a dumb inclusion because he has a freaking portal gun, but I love it. Upon returning home, he begins to realize just how much his real family sucks.
It's pulling my inside!
You have too much metal in you, dipshit.
I didn't put it there!
So?
And that's when he goes back to that reality. He begins to tell them of his fucked up adventures, of course triggering their protective paternal instincts, and that's when Jerry and Morty begin to bond closely. They go up to a log cabin Jerry built, and he tells Morty of how his real son Mort died while climbing. Tearing up at the story, Morty tells him he loves him and wants to be his son. And then comes the classic midpoint switch up of the episode. Jerry tells him to break the portal gun if that's really true, but of course, Morty doesn't want to, leading to a tussle and... And then it's revealed that this Jerry is extremely unhinged, and he tried to make his Morty the perfect specimen. Now sure, these insane lines by Jerry could be a sign of grief, but Morty eventually comes across Mort's journal, stating that his father is a freak. This also implies that Jerry was pretty much the reason his son died, by forcing him to do a bunch of activities to make him strong. That's when our Morty tracks down this world's Rick, and this is the really sad part. This Rick is a professor at MIT. He's a recovering alcoholic, and he also says,
the universe is not locally real, which means nothing matters. Or everything does!
After explaining everything to him, sober Rick's excited at the idea of infinite universes. But when Morty asks him to build the portal gun, he says it nearly killed him. I'm sure he's being metaphorical and not literal, because as we'll see, going down this road leads to nothing but utter nihilism. I love the scene of sober Rick's speech at his rehab center. His backstory is actually quite tragic and a bit uplifting too. See, while he drank a lot, Diane kept it under control, but after Rick Prime used the Omega device, making her simply vanish, he spiraled and lost control of his drinking habits. It is hinted here that he was too busy with his work to even notice, which I'll bring up again later. He says he let Beth down, but is proud of her growing up and finding Jerry. Despite Rick hating him, he recognizes that Jerry was right to kick him out because it led him here, a place where he had an honest career, a community, a loving partner, happiness. You'd think by this point we as the audience would grow accustomed to multiversal shenanigans like this, yet it's still really jarring to see Rick having a loving wife.
So, she's a fuckbot?
Jesus Christ, Morty! She's my wife! She's a human woman!
And so, with Morty's fear of this world's Jerry catching up to him getting worse, Rick sets to work. Fucking hell, he's put on the lab coat. This is not gonna end well. So he goes through a bunch of demos and trials with his wife starting off as extremely supportive, but as they get more dangerous and reckless, she grows weary of the whole thing, especially since this Rick is becoming much more like he used to be, focused too much on work.
She's gonna leave. They all leave.
Morty then reveals that Diane didn't leave, she just vanished, and that this happened to all Ricks in the multiverse.
But I believe in you.
You might think at first that this is Morty trying to ease sober Rick's mind, but he knows what he's doing. He's making sure that sober Rick redoubles his efforts. Morty wakes up to sober Rick and his wife arguing, and we get an extremely important scene. She asks him if this is what his Rick is like, and Morty responds that it's the only way to get him home. She's shocked at how a 14-year-old can have such a twisted mindset, and he says he learned it from
Your husband. Infinitely. It belongs more to me than to you.
What a fucking cold-blooded line. If it isn't clear already, what Morty does in this episode is exactly what Rick does all the time. Manipulates others for his own selfish needs, even if it means destroying their life completely. Rick goes back into his old drinking habits, losing all rational and ethical thought he has, causing his wife to leave. And it seems like he finally figured out portal travel.
You're sure I didn't ruin your life?
You saved me.
Yeah, keep trying to validate your own thoughts, Morty. That's when Jerry and the family show up and a fight commences. One thing to note here is that he actually didn't figure out portal travel, and I love that he says to Jerry,
I hate you in every conceivable reality.
yeah, more like a love-hate relationship, to be honest. And by the end, each of them, every single one of them, die some extremely gruesome deaths, leaving our Morty all alone in yet another garage of dead family members. And when I saw this shot, I was waiting for Real Estate Rick to show up, and
Estate sale is open!
what a depressing yet deeply humbling experience for our Morty. Of course, our Rick shows up, and he doesn't even need to look at Morty to know what happened. That actually makes me wonder. When watching all of these scenes unfold in this universe, I was wondering if our Rick was somewhere in the background just watching Morty fuck this reality up. I mean, it's not like he would never be able to track our Morty down. The kid has implants inside of him. One of them has to be a tracker. And given that he's so indifferent and realizes who his Morty is, I wouldn't at all be surprised if he was watching everything. I also like that in the end, Morty ends up turning funeral hopping Morty to this long neck dog. Was that honestly deserved? All that Morty did was go around getting validation through his own funeral. It was our Morty that took it too far. What a fucking hypocrite. Obsession vibes, anyone? Upon returning home, we get this exchange.
You okay?
Yeah. I love you.
All right, no need to get weird.
You're in, my son!
Honestly, I feel bad for the way his family operates, but that doesn't mean I'm justifying what he did. The point is, Morty has to accept his family for what it is, and by the end, it seems like he does, as Rick, yet again, just like he always does, wakes him up in the middle of the night in a heavily drunken state, this time just to ride his bike as the sun sets.
Your dad, Morty! I'm your fucking dad!
Yeah, you're my dad! I'm your son!
You're my son!
In the end, Morty got what he was craving the entire time, to solidify that a member of his family truly loves him. Better yet, it comes from the one guy who's the most emotionally closed off. It becomes clear from this episode alone why Rick never once bothered to give our Morty a portal gun. He knows him well enough to know he would do some stupid shit. Another reason why I think he didn't step in when he was ruining another Rick's life. Morty got to learn the hard way. The last line of Morty being Rick's son hits a lot harder when you realize, like I mentioned earlier, that our Morty ruined another universe all because of his own stupidity and selfishness, just like Rick has done countless times before. He really is Rick's son rather than Jerry's. Oh shit, wait a minute. I can't help but realize that this shitty our Morty becomes evil Morty thing isn't true. No eating a jar of pickles on camera for you morons! On a serious note, that theory was never gonna pan out, and I'm so happy we did away with anything related to evil Morty. What we got was far more interesting and thought-provoking. Ultimately, I think the finale's main theme was about acceptance and just appreciating what you have. It's actually a rather hopeful message that the show doesn't usually put forth, and for that reason alone, this still ranks highly across all season finales. Real quick, let's do a ranking of each episode from worst to best, because why not? In last place, I'm gonna put Salute Your Morts. Wasn't a bad episode, but I just thought it was meh compared to every other episode this season. I just got the least amount of enjoyment out of this one. And I shouldn't have to be high to get enjoyment out of an episode. To those of you who take that line seriously,
Your booze mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
second last goes to Rick Fu Hustle. I thought this was a fun episode that gave me a lot of regular show vibes and didn't take itself too seriously. Jerry plot though was just too fucking weird and not in a good way. 8th place goes to A Rickerhead. This is the part in the list where I have minimal minimal to no negatives about every episode that comes next. I liked seeing Morty and Summer try to figure out a way out of this planet without Rick bailing them out. 7th is Jerbud. Nice to see the return of Snowball with some great action, plus it was cool to see Jerry actually get a job. 6th goes to A Ricker Runs Through It. I love the chaotic nonsense going on in this episode, plus that ending really stuck with me. 5th is Mort Gully, the last Rick Forest. Such an insanely unique concept for an episode with some cute running gags and beautiful animation and sequences. What I liked just a little more than that was number 4, Requiem More to Dream. Another unique concept of an empathy-eating bug that showcased what a badass Morty would be if he had no empathy. Plus, this one scene alone is so satisfying that it slightly edged it out for me instead of Mort Gully.
Moron! Sympathize with an explosion, you dumb piece of shit!
3rd is the finale, Field of Dreams. Rarely ever do the season finales flop, and this one was just as intriguing and heartbreaking. I didn't even mention the post-credit scene because, well, it was so quick, and honestly, Mr. Poopy Butthole isn't exactly my favorite character. Regardless of that, incredible episode. Coming up on the top 2, this could go either way, but for me, 2nd is There's Something About Morty. Evil Morty episodes are never shit, and this might be the best one featuring him. Incredible dialogue, fucking insane animation, and the callbacks to previous moments in the episode and previous episodes are astounding. To be honest, if I was taking in recency bias, Field of Dreams might come in 2nd, but for now, I'm sticking with this one. But in 1st place, without a doubt, I have to give it to Rick Day 7 Nights. I honestly believe this was supposed to be the season finale, with the EM episode being 2nd last, but I'm convinced that last minute, they changed up the order to make season 9 start off with a bang. This episode is a microcosm of Rick's entire life, all the while adopting the main concept of severance, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. The specific shots, the transformation of Ted into Rick, the small and subtle details, as well as that ending just about edges this out over the EM episode. That's my list, and it goes without saying this is just my opinion, and I better not see a bunch of you doing this.
Wait, no!
Overall, I would give season 9 of Rick and Morty a 9 out of 10. I would love to hear your rankings down below, and while you're there, leave a like and subscribe. It's been a true pleasure. And like I said, I've got a lot more planned, and we'll be doing a big Rick character recap and analysis. If you guys want to see breakdowns and reviews of the new President Curtis spinoff, leave a comment down below. If you want to support me further, please follow all my socials, join my Patreon, and consider grabbing my book, The Shattered Absolution. Heavily inspired by the shows I cover, and I want to thank you once again for watching.